Uh-oh. Hey, what's going on, everybody? Hope you all can hear me and see me. Today, what I'm going to be working on is cleaning up this sketch right here. This is Charles, Big Head Charles, and his sister, Kimberly Jenae, or KJ. And so I just wanted to clean this up and show you guys the process of me doing so. Hopefully, you can learn something from it. Let me know if you can hear the music as well. Just try to put something on just so you guys can, instead of just looking at me or looking at me sketch, maybe listen to some music. You got any questions or anything about what I'm doing, or if I'm leaving out some techniques, let me know. And also, I'll talk about how I go about constructing some of the ideas for my characters and for the storyline in general. But anyway, let me get into this. I was trying to share it. Let me double check that, and then we'll get it rolling. It's always the technical stuff that you got to focus on early. Um, Give me 1 second. Yeah, let me share it one more place, and then we can get it rolling. I just want to make sure that my internet is not acting up on me. Always the technical issues. One more place, and then we'll get it rolling. There we go. Yeah, and if you like what I'm doing, definitely please share. Um, get ready to dive into it now. And I'll take my face off if you want to look at me, say something. So anyway, and I'm using the iPad and the Apple Pencil. The program I'm using, the software I'm using is Procreate. Okay, we're back. For some reason, my computer keeps switching to the lower stream destination. I almost want to see if I can switch to the higher connection rate, but I'm afraid it might kick me off. If it kicks me off, please promise to come back. I'm going to try real quick. I don't know why it does that. Let's see. It's slowly connecting. It might boot me off. Okay. I don't know if there was a lag for you guys, but I'm reconnected. So everything should be good now. And let me put the music back on because I stopped it just to double check what was going on. So just bear with me 1 second. Yeah, it's always the technical issues. I just want to get on here and draw, and it's usually these things that slow me up. So give me 1 second, get this rolling, and then I'll dive right into it. But one of the things that I do, again, I take the Robert Valley method. And Robert Valley, he's the designer for like Tron, the cartoon. He did some other things. He has like a weird style. But anyway, one of the things that he said is that he tries not to redraw as often as he can. So, in other words, once he designs something, he reuses those same assets to redraw, and that's kind of the approach I take. It's almost like a developer approach. You build assets and then build off of that. so you don't have to keep repeating yourself. So for if you noticed in this particular image, the heads are colored and the body is like sketch looking. And so what I do is, since I already have a model head, I've designed like turnaround heads and that kind of stuff. I just use that as the premise or the basis for me to draw, other assets. If I'm sketching and it's just meant for a sketch and nothing too detailed, then I'll just go ahead and sketch it from scratch because sometimes it's a lot faster. But if I'm trying to figure out scale and sketch to scale, then I'll go ahead and use the assets that I've already made. So in this case, I've used the head of Kimberly Jenae and the head of Big Head Charles, and then I just draw over top of that and come up with, the posing and that kind of stuff is just a lot simpler. Excuse me. And this is right now, this is a JPEG. I exported it from another file just to do this particular demonstration. And so one thing that I usually do is I'll add another layer on top of the layer I'm going to sketch back over. This is kind of done, but I may tweak some things, tighten it up, and so that's what I'm doing right now. And I'll probably just switch out of me being on the screen just so you guys can see more of the real estate. I'm sure you're here to look at the drawing and not me, so switch it to that. And like I said, if you have any comments or anything, definitely let me know, and I'll answer whatever questions you have. One of the things that I do, and I got this technique from Chris Pearn, and I don't know if it affects so much in terms of um, Procreate, but instead of like adjusting the opacity here and doing that, I just add another layer on top like that, like so, and then I adjust the opacity there. So that way, if I want to look at the actual image, I can just click on and off. And this just helps me see where the lines need to go. And I may end up redrawing this head, just retracing it. I don't know. Like I said, sometimes I just go in and grab an asset I already have, resize it. But the good thing about redrawing sometimes, specifically in Procreate, is that when you resize sometimes in Procreate, the resolution drops a bit. May not be noticeable all the time, but sometimes you get like a fuzzy outline instead of a clean, crisp one. So since I'm in Procreate, I may do that. We'll see how this turns out. And again, sorry for being so long and doing this stuff. When you get busy, sometimes it's hard to set aside time to actually, show people your process because you're too busy doing it. So anyway, I'm just going over here. Let me double check my brushes here. So these are a bunch of brushes that I made in Procreate. Um, I just designed these based off of tutorials online. There's plenty of them. And so I have what I call my outline. I use this quite a bit when I'm doing production work. And basically, it's just a solid circle. It's no big deal. It's almost like your default brush you would get in Photoshop. But this particular, like in Procreate, there's really not a solid one that was already made. And so I made my own. And the reason why I use this in terms of production, like, so the goal with Big Head Charles is to make a book, make some animated, series, that kind of stuff. So if I'm still undecided on whether or not I want to have solid lines. But when you're doing like drawing, or especially if you're doing like 2D animated or whatever, and you're going frame by frame specifically, you want to make sure that your line weights are consistent. So when you have tapers and things like that, it can slow down the process. It's not to say that there aren't cartoons that do that, but it just more line work. So if you just keep everything consistent, draw with one line weight throughout, like if you look at Marvel, like DC cartoons, Marvel cartoons, Craig of the Creek, actually a lot of the cartoons you'll if you pay attention, you'll notice that they all have like one solid line weight that's throughout. So that's kind of what I'm doing here, but it's just for sketching. And like I said, I'm not sure if I'll have lines or not on the Big Head Charles property. So anyway, all I'm doing right now is just going still rough. I'm more focused on the thickness and the proportions right now. I'm not really caring too much about the sketch in terms of like cleanliness. And so I'm just thinking about, okay, just focus more or less on whether or not he's to the skill that I need. And so as I'm getting closer to production on this, I've been really, and this, when I talk about line weight, it doesn't apply here because I'm keeping it rough. Otherwise, it would just be like one solid line for everything and less sketchy. So I'm not sweating that too much right now. Uh, but as I get closer to production, I'm trying to really feel the size I want his proportions to be. It's just for me something. It's like whether it feels right or not, and then also whether or not it holds up on the screen when I start to animate it and have dialogue and him talking to people and all of that kind of stuff. And also, uh, his his proportions in terms of like how much tuning I want to add to it. I don't know the proper word for that, but it's how much I want to stretch and pull and that kind of stuff. The purpose of a cartoon is to have to utilize the benefit of having a cartoon. So you don't want to make things too realistic because otherwise why not do a live shot. So I'm just really just thinking about his proportions, how big I want his hands, and I think I'm gonna keep them fairly small. On all the other drawings his hands are pretty small. um, and then also I may go back and clean up some of the other drawings that I've done of him previously just to add consistency across the whole um, product line, so to speak, or characters. So again, I'm more or less focused on. I know his head is already on point because I've used a previous asset, and so I'm gonna go up here to his sister and just really make sure that translates. And actually, I'm gonna turn her hand down, and so that way her neck will curve here. And like I said, the end goal for this is, I've been writing. Writing is definitely not my forte, so it takes me longer than anything else to do. Um, so I'm just trying to get more comfortable with that. And I may start posting like more sketches. And what I mean by that, like just think about it like almost comic strip type, instead as opposed to like long format. And by long format, I mean like book. And so I may do that just to keep you guys informed on how I'm viewing, what the humor will be, how the characters will interact, what the storyline is, all of that kind of stuff. So, and right now I have his sister at 4 years old, or maybe even younger than that. I'm not sure what I want her age to be because I'm still working on her dialogue. She won't necessarily be included a lot early in what I'm doing, so I haven't fleshed her out too much. But I have developed a character Bible and those kinds of things. Well, not even a character Bible, just a deck, just to keep myself on point in terms of keeping the personalities consistent with the way I envisioned them originally. So it's a process, uh, and it takes longer than you would expect, especially since this is not the sole thing I'm focused on. So right now I'm liking this pose. Like I said, I've already sketched it out roughly, but these are kind of where the cleanup lines are going to be in terms of when I go back over it and really focus on my, the render. And one of the things that I'm considering, which I'm not sure, is changing up his clothing. I draw him in a variety of clothing. He has like one main design when I first designed it, so I'm trying to figure out how or if I should change his clothing, frequently or infrequently, because that can, that also makes a difference in the drawing and that kind of stuff. So I'm thinking about like maybe only situationally changing his clothing. What I mean by that, like, so if he's playing football, if he's in space, if he's doing whatever, then I'll draw, the clothing according to the scene or the theme of the particular, the show or the story. So I think I may keep him in his traditional blue on blue. Um, so let me just sketch that in. And the reason why, always on the sketch part, you want to answer the questions that you're unsure of. And this just helps in terms of speeding things up. And also, it just takes away confusion because another thing you have to think about when you're drawing, it's easy to draw for yourself, but sometimes you may put down, like, for example, if I put this sketch down and I needed to make it, I want to make sure that the lines are clean enough so when I come back I can follow the original intention of why I made it, if that makes any sense. So actually I'm going to straighten up this leg a bit. It's too curvy for me. Yeah, I like that better. He's kicking his leg out. He's doing an airplane with his sister. Also, I've made a Big Head Charles page on both Facebook and Instagram, and I'll start pushing that here soon. And what that'll be is just for those of you all who like, this particular property. You can go there to just look at all the artwork in sequence as opposed to having to go through all of the other work that I'm doing. So I'll continue to post on both pages. But that's more or less a page that's dedicated to Big Head Charles specifically. So because I draw a variety of things, um, and not everything is the same kind of art. Because I have a lot of interest in terms of art. All of it's cartoon based, but there's different genres of cartoon, different styles, and some people prefer one style over another. And so specifically for the storyline and everything in terms of production, uh, I'll be putting all of that information on the Big Head Charles page. So yeah, I think we're good. And what I'm going to do next is I'm going to do an outline of everything real clean. And so what I do with the outline of everything, I just go over, make sure that everything's smooth. And I'll use like a streamline brush for that inside of Procreate. And what streamline does is it smooths out the line. And so I'll do like an overall silhouette of everything, and then I'll go back and then add the details inside of that. So you'll see this process. Um, Trying to think of where I want to do that layer. No, that's not gonna work. Let me undo that. Um, I'll just do it on top just so I can keep track of what's going on. And typically with that, I'll just pick some arbitrary color so I can see it. And I'm gonna switch to Streamline. This is my Streamline outline brush, and this is my process of doing that. Hold on. I'm just looking at this spot right here. I'm gonna zoom in on it. I just want to make sure that there aren't any tangents. And a tangent in drawing is a no-no, and basically it means you don't want to line up something that's already lined up. So I don't want to draw a tangent like that. And so you just want to make sure that everything is breaking in a sense, and it just adds to the flow. So okay, I'm good. So I'm going to actually just lighten this up. Take that away. And again, I'm just focused on the outline on this. And I'll get real into the weeds on it. And this is where I take my time. And as you can see, I've added a taper, and I'm not sure if I'll keep that taper or not. But right now, I'm adding the taper. And again, I'm just focused on the silhouette here, the outline for the silhouette. This is my chance to clean up the areas I don't like. I think I'll just keep his leg curved there instead of making it like a straight. Because again, I don't, like I said earlier, I don't want to mitigate the fact that he is a cartoon, so I'm not trying to make it look real. I want it to anatomically make sense, but I also want to make sure that it stays playful and fun. Okay. I was just checking to make sure that there's enough space there um, for the design. And also, I'm just keeping in mind just my widths uh, because the limbs, for me, I don't know what it is, but like me drawing like thin things sometimes just throws me off. Like, cause I guess I'm used to drawing like bulky characters and that kind of stuff. So actually, I'm gonna erase that foot. But it would be kind of larger, being that it's in the forefront, just perspective. But I want to bring it down a tad. And again, I'm just matching consistency across the feet and how I know his foot is. And then, so one thing that I've been changing quite a bit is the thickness of his body, because I want to make sure that I don't make him fat. And I'm saying that from the standpoint that I don't want to match the width of his head. Um, and so I'm trying to make sure that the stark contrast between his body type. So basically, he's a skinny kid, a little. He's really a little kid with like I said, a huge head. So if his head was normal size, he would not be tall at all. So I kind of want to make sure that I leave that emphasis there and don't overstep with his body. So I'm looking at the other hand. Yeah, also in Procreate, they have what's called a reference. Uh, I'll turn reference on. So I'm going to move this reference, oops, yeah, up in the corner. And that way I can keep track of what everything looks like while I'm moving around. Sometimes I forget to use this. Actually, a lot of the times I forget to use this feature. But it's very helpful, like especially when you're like super zoomed in and you want to make sure that you're matching everything. And you'll see real quick what I'm doing. In Procreate, like if you hold down, it'll snap into position. So you'll start to get used to how and where you need to snap, so it doesn't distort your image at all, because it can distort your image. Uh, and so you want to make sure your curves are subtle, and then that you pause and snap accordingly. But sometimes those snaps can be worse than actually what you want. So I'll adjust that. And I prefer Procreate. Like this could easily be done in Illustrator. But right now, for me, Procreate's a lot quicker to do the outlines and to do cleanup. It reminds me of how Flash used to be, or I guess still is. So, and some of the aspects of Big Head Charles may change. Um, I do that. Yeah, some of the aspects of Big Head Charles may change a little bit. Like I said, I'm still deciding on whether to do an outline or not. And the benefit of an outline is that it can help distinguish features, lines, and all of that, right? Um, I like the no line look, just a personal preference, but it sometimes can make it difficult to do backgrounds. And all I did right there was I just clicked and dragged. I'm going to turn this layer off, turn this all the way up. And I do that just so I can look at the gaps. Procreate, all you have to do is just drag and drop. And as you can see here, the line thickness on the front leg is a little thicker than the back, and that's because it's coming forward some. And all I'm doing is just going here and filling out the gaps, making sure that there's no bumps, like right there. See these like white dots? Just go back over those, clean it up. Come up here to the little sister. Same thing. And so now what I'll do is I'll fill the details from the inside out. And I'll just slowly recreate Charles and his sister. Actually, I'm gonna make the thickness of this arm just a tad thinner. Just zoom in here. Oops. Clear. And I can just come back in here and just go back over that line. Make sure everything is clean. And this thumb, I don't like the thumb. Okay, yeah, I like that angle a little better. We gotta bring it out just a tad. Actually, let me get a thinner. I just want to make sure everything's smooth. Just my preference. And so you can see the silhouette, and you can kind of get an idea of what's going on in the silhouette based on the way it looks. Sorry about that. So I like that. And so next step is filling in the details from the inside out. So let me zoom back in. Yeah. Also, if there's something that you'd like to see me do, I'll be switching it up in terms of the kind of work I'm doing. I wanted to do this particular picture so I could post it. I posted it in my stories earlier. I posted the sketch, and so I wanted to clean it up, make this be one of my posts for the week. So let's get back to it. I'm just readjusting my reference image up here in the corner. That's a new feature in Procreate, the latest version of Procreate, rather. Okay, I'm gonna lock that layer. Well, actually, one of the things I do is it's a quick shortcut. Is I'll like make the default color the body. So for since his head takes up the majority of the picture, I'm gonna change this color to the color of his head, and I'll just do that. And actually, I'll do a fill layer just to make sure it's covering up everything. And so when I do that, you can see that I changed the color, and this is the color of his head. And I'll change her color accordingly too. And what I'm gonna do here is just duplicate this and bring it up top. I'm just gonna shrink it down just as a reference for myself, another reference, just so I can see, you know, so I can reach for her color pretty quickly when I get to that point. And so I'm gonna bring the outline layer above this one and turn it on. And I'm gonna change this to multiply. So that way it stands out over top. And as you can see, those are the layers right there. And what this will allow me to do is quickly add the lines and the color separations that I need for his clothes. It doesn't give me the details on his head because I didn't add them in, but you can see that it gives me just enough to make some adjustments. So I'm going to do that real quick and show you my process for that. So I'll go back where the silhouette layer is, and then I'll add a clipping mask above it, actually. Clipping mask, and I'll start with his shirt. Um, I'll just pick a color here. And I may not use this color. It actually doesn't matter for real. And all I'm doing here is just doing the outline for where his shirt will be. And again, just the layer fill. It looks kind of weird right now because I have the outline on. But once I turn the outline off, you'll be able to see what I'm doing. Now come over here where his sleeves are. Yeah, because one of the things really when you're doing like art, or when you're like structuring it the way that I'm going about it, you just mentally keep notes on where everything is. You mentally keep notes on what it's going to look like when it's done. To me, it's similar to like programming. Um, you just put together things in bits and pieces, but you understand what the whole is going to look like already in your head, and you just slowly uh, separate things out into small bite-sized pieces, um, and you just understand the workflow. So I turned that off. I'm just coming in here just to make sure that this is lining up properly. So shape. And all I'm doing is just coming in here, getting real tight on this. And chances are you wouldn't even see these glitches. Like you wouldn't see those bumps once it's zoomed out anyway, but I know it's there, so I have to correct it just because. And rendering is really not bad depending on how you render. Um, just get used to the process, enjoy the process. So I'm going to go under that, and typically I'll make his shorts darker. Um, okay, you see this right here? I got to go clean that up. So I'll go back to that layer. I'll undo the transparency, the transparency lock, the alpha lock is what it's called. Okay. And the only reason I'm putting the alpha lock on it anyway is just to make sure I don't um, color outside of it when I come down here. Let me add another layer. I switch my colors. Let me turn my outline back on just so I can see where things are. And so you see here, and this layer is under my shirt layer, so I can be a little more liberal in terms of how I'm doing it when I go up near the shirt. So I turn that off once again, and you can see how smooth it is. I'll come in here and tighten this up. This looks like a little blurry right there. Um, and I don't like blurry. There we go. And then you just get used to the process. Um, because honestly, once I get to this point, it's pretty much downhill. Um, with cartoon designs in terms of keeping everything flat. That's my purpose, is to keep these things flat. I'm not trying to add a lot of gradients or smoothing or anything like that. So yeah, I gotta clean that part up right here. I don't like that bump. Okay, okay, that's better, because I can see the bump. And I don't like it. Let me do a shoes, and the shoes are pretty much the same color as his shirt, but just a tad lighter. Oops. See, that's another reason why you pay attention to your layers. I'll do that. Come up. Then I just drew a big circle and just color fill. And I'll probably make the shoes darker because I don't think it's on model. But this is good enough for me to move on. And again, I just add the big block colors and then I go back in and then I uh, just slowly add in more detail. So here's the way I'm going to approach his sister. I'm going to turn these off. Actually, I'm going to turn this down like that. And I'm just going to physically draw these particular pieces for both Charles and his sister um, above, and then I'll bring it into the clipping mask, and you'll see that process. I may not even really need the clipping mask to do their features, but I do it on purpose just to make sure that it doesn't bleed outside of the outline. Uh, yeah, I'll do. I don't want to do this. Yeah, and so another good feature about Procreate is you can see me doing a loose outline of a circle here. Then I can go up edit shape and just click circle. Then I'll bring it over. And since that's on its own layer, I'll duplicate that and then I'll just slide it into place. Again, you always want to just work smarter, not harder. And this particular image, I can make into a sticker. I can make into a variety of different things. So that's why I personally want to keep it clean. I definitely do a lot of sketchy stuff every now and then, but for these, I want to keep clean. I'm going to add another layer, and notice I keep layering things, and I do this so I can be what's called non-destructive. And so I'm just really just getting that shape in, making it into a circle. Boom, duplicate that. Have another circle here. And you'll see how I'm gonna do that. So see, I have the two circles. Now that I have that outlined already, I'll go uh, and I'll fill this in. Oops. Actually, I'm gonna clip those together. Uh-oh. Oops. Make sure I'm on the right layer. Fill that layer in. Clip those together. Bring them together. You see, I merged it. And then what I'm going to do is I'll do that. When I swipe right, all I'm doing is doing the alpha lock. Then I'll fill that. You see how it turned. I'll undo. See, I turn the blue outline and I fill the entire thing white. Next, what I'll do is get my dark color. Come up here, fill that first. Then I'll fill that second. And I'll merge these two. I'm going to do the same process. Swipe right on it. Fill. It's black. And then I'm going to make that a clipping mask. You see how I did that? I'm going to undo. All I did was make this layer right here a clipping mask for the layer that's under it. So that way, if I come in here and move his eyes around, it's clipped to that layer. So that's the benefit of using a clipping mask. You know, and in Procreate, I could actually animate this. So that's another reason why I tend to like, you know, non-destructive layers, that kind of stuff. Let me make sure he's looking up at his sister. Yeah. So those are his eyes, and you might want to start labeling these. I'm not labeling because I'm trying to whip through this pretty fast, but you definitely want to go through and label your layers. Next, I'm going to do the rest of his features, and I'm just going to go grab this color here for his nose. And turn my layer back on, come up here, and I may just do the rest of his features here. I'm gonna pick my solid outline because it's a lot thicker. And Charles's nose is pretty simple. It's just a small hook. And his eyebrows and his hair, I'll do that on a separate layer. Come up here. Here, I'm gonna find another lo-fi hip hop channel. This one has too many commercials. We'll try. Yeah, I'm gonna actually turn that off because I'm afraid. I don't know how they're doing streaming right now. I don't want to, because I've had times where I do rights attributed lo-fi hip hop, and I end up getting my music stopped. I mean, getting my audio stopped for the whole thing. So right now, all I'm doing is just the hair layer. The hair and the eyebrows are the same color. Right now, I'm using the wrong color, but I'll show you how to correct that as well. I'm just trying to get it drawn, and I drag. You can drag and drop inside of Procreate. And then also get that. And I've been thinking about changing up Charles's hair as well. I kind of like the rough hair look. Um, just adjusting the arcs. I like I like the rough hair look as opposed to the clean cut. So I'm still undecided on that. And all I'm doing is adjusting these arcs. And I'm going to show you the benefit of using clipping mask, right? You see how I have his hair. I'm just going to do just something crazy. just so you can see how it works. So that's how I'm doing that hair shape layer, right? And let me go. Actually, I got my colors here. Let me go here. I'm gonna lock this layer and do a fill layer, so that way his hair color is the right color. And I'm gonna come down here, and I know that I gotta clean that spot up. So you always double check, make sure everything is filled in completely, right? And then what I'll do is take this back down here, and as part of the clipping mask. And when I turn that back on, boom, notice his hair, right? And I can delete this up here as well. If I'll just go ahead and do it just because. But I really don't need to do that either. Because once I start drawing the sister on top of that, it'll cover all of that up. So I don't know if you've ever painted, but if you paint, it's kind of the same thing. You can put colors down on the mat, but the layer on top of it will cover up the layer that's under it. So it's not a big deal if you mess up the bottom layer because you color on top of it anyway. So that's kind of what you're seeing here, right? Um, Here, let me turn off the outline just to give a quick update on what all of this will look like. And as you can see, it's getting cleaner. It's getting more production ready, or what I call production ready. So cartoon ready, meaning that it could go on the screen. It'll be crisp and clean, that kind of stuff. And also, when you do these drawings, you want to make sure that they're pretty large to begin with. This is not as large as I normally make it. Let me see what size it is. Settings. So I mean, it's still pretty decent. It's 2,700 pixels. So it's still a pretty decent size. Anyway, let me get back to what I was doing. Turn that off. Turn that off. Uh, Let me turn that back on. And all I'm doing right now is just going in and adding the details, adding facial features, and then I'll do the sister next. And so I'll just come above that, and I'll add the mouth outline. And I focus on the outlines on purpose so I can see where everything else needs to go. So it's holding down. And again, I don't do a full circle or a full curve because it can get really wonky. Okay, so I'm gonna go ahead and fill this. Do that. Clean this up. And then next what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna lighten that just so I can see. I just need to lighten it enough to see where the teeth and the tongue go, right? And I'm gonna do a clipping mask for that just because I don't want to be too detailed in terms of making sure that I line it up perfectly with the line up top. And I can do these pretty quickly. Actually, a lot of this I can speed through, to be honest. I'm just so used to it. And then I'll speed it up just a little bit just so you can see normally how I work just to get stuff done. I'll do a clipping mask on that, bump that back up, and boom, there's his mouth. That color is actually too light for his mouth. Um, hmm, Got so many different colors on here. Okay, I'm tripping. I have a reference. That's why the reference is there. And so, for my reference, I just go back over that color. And then for the darkness of his mouth, it's more of a plum color. I just go back here, drag that down, then boom. That's more like it. So next I'm gonna do the sister. I'm gonna zoom in on that. And again, this is just slowly layering. Charles is pretty much done. I gotta add the details to his fingers. And maybe I'll separate his fingers out because I don't think they're separated. Yeah, I may separate his fingers out a little bit more. Um, but as you can see, slowly filling in pretty quickly. Once you do the sketches and actually once you get in a groove, this stuff goes a whole lot faster. So only reason why it's slowing down now is because I'm explaining a lot of things, and I'm deliberately trying to slow down to explain these things because sometimes I get caught up and I won't pay attention to the fact that I'm streaming. So what I'm gonna do now is actually do a sister. Okay, I got the right color. So I'm gonna do the mouth. I'm trying to figure out if I should overextend. So this is another thing that I was talking about in terms of not having lines is deciding on whether or not you want to add lines to certain places like her mouth. Uh, it may be beneficial to have a line there just for some feature purposes. Um, but I'm going to try without, and then I may go back over and add lines after the fact. Let me fill her mouth in, double check, zoom in, make sure everything's colored. Zoom out just a little bit. And I'm not sure if I'll keep her Snaggletooth. Um, I like Snaggletooth kids because it just makes them look more kid-like. But I don't want to have too many characters that have snaggle teeth unless it just becomes a trademark or something. Add the tongue here. And actually, that's not the right color. I can tell. This feels off, but I'll clean that up too. Yep, it was the wrong color. I was right. I don't know if you can tell the difference there. And so, same concept, just clip and mask, zoom it in, boom. So next I'm gonna do her color. I'm gonna go ahead and just pick her color so I can just do a quick fill. I'll actually label this just so I can keep track of it. And I'll actually have to bring this head layer down because I wanted part of the clip and mask from the earlier layers. Actually, I don't even need to do that. I'm more concerned about this area here since it bleeds over into other areas. Just gonna edit that shape down, make sure everything is nice and smooth. And then here, I can just do what I did before. I don't need to be sweating any of that. And I'll fill that in. Then once I bring this down above him, boom. And when I turn that on, you can see right there. So just so you know that it's there. Next, I'll do the hair. Go over here, select this color. And I tend to work on the big features first. I work big and then go down small. It's just a lot faster because again, I just want to make sure that the overall shapes are good. And then I can go in and add detail Like I'm keeping that kind of loose. I may have to tighten it up. We'll see. But I always start big, work small. Yeah, that's not gonna work. And that's the issue I was talking about in terms of like you see how the curve didn't quite work out. That's part of the issue of really just doing like one solid shape instead of just taking your time and just doing it in increments. It just works a lot better. And also don't be afraid to undo. Like if you make a line that doesn't work, undo immediately and start over. Something about that curve right there. So I'm going to fill it out. And again, I'm being real loose with coloring because of clipping mask. Clipping mask and boom. Double check. Boom. Okay, anybody have any questions on the process? Let's see. Next, I'll do the eyes, the nose, and the eyebrows, and we'll be good to go. Okay, let me start a new layer. Get these colors for her face. You see when I shrunk it down, it changed the composition a bit. Make sure I got my thin. Give her just a little curve under the mouth. Show some depth on her lips. Add another layer for her eyes. And it's almost wrap up time. I got to do her hands and her shirt. And again, the feature for just making the circles in Procreate is pretty dope. It used to not be there, and it was a hassle making circles. You had to finagle. I just made a circle brush. Let me duplicate that. But this is way more convenient. Make another layer. And right now, I have the eyes for the characters as circles. I may change it up to make it more loose. And what I mean by loose is organic looking. So let me go back and add the color to the, oops. Adding color to the eyes. Let me speed through this a little bit. Get rid, fill that in. Get rid of the outlines because remember this is no outlines. Eyes are black. So I'm on the eye layer, the pupil layer. Go in with that. Alpha lock, fill layer, clipping mask to the eyes. So now they're making eye contact with one another. She's happy. Let me go in and do these hands. Turn the lo-fi back on so you don't get too sidetracked by my voice. Okay, next let me do the hands. And I'll end up dragging these hands down below the head layer of the girl. But I just want to get these in there. Choose my color. I don't remember what her skin tone was, so I'll just choose that for right now. Okay. I gotta pick a new layer. Create a new layer. So I'm trying to. I'm going over the shape. I will be actually changing. Um, I will be adding these lines back in, but I do that just I do the curves. Let me zoom out so I can see the hand sizes here. I do the curves so I know where to make those indentions when I add the lines for the hands anyway. So it's still beneficial. So so I just want to make sure the hands are similar in size. Actually, I could just make the same hand on both sides, just duplicate it. I'm just gonna redraw it. Sometimes it's just easier for me to redraw. And I'll just fill that in. I'll do a layer above that for the shirt. And since I'm gonna be adding lines after the fact, I'm just gonna do the main shape for the shirt, and you'll see what I mean by that. Pick this pink for right now. Make sure I chose another layer, and I'll do the cleanup on this as well. Because what I'll have to double check is to make sure that these lines I'm making are lining up with the I'm sorry, are lining up with the original outline that I did for both bodies. And you'll see what I mean by that here in a second. So now at this point, I kind of don't need the outlines that I created because I can I have an overall general visual of what everything's going to look like. So I'm now going to drag these things into position and work from the main finished piece. So you can see that. Let me get rid of the outlines. Something's missing. I know there is. Okay. So right here, I can see that I need to come in on the head. And what I'm going to do, instead of changing her, I'm going to change the underlying head structure. If that makes sense. So the underlying structure is right here on this layer. I'm just going to fill that in. And this is what I was talking about in terms of going in and making sure that everything lines up the way it needs to. And I'm going to adjust some things on her as well. I'm going to adjust her eyes. I'm going to adjust her mouth some to make it look better. And I'm going to adjust the overall outline. So normally what I do when I'm about to adjust the overall outline, I'll duplicate it to make sure I'm not being destructive. And then let me come in here and clean it up. Actually, I'm going to do this first. And all I'm doing right now is just coming in and cleaning up. Select that. Invert my selection. And this will allow me to come down here, I believe. There we go. That's what I want. Now all I'm doing is just coming in here and just refocusing on the shapes. And and you'll see what I'm doing when I get closer to it. Just cleaning up these curves. There we go. So we got the alignment up on that. Now it's time to go in and add some detailing. First, let me clean up this mouth. Maybe if I just bring the eyes down some more. Make the eyes a little bigger. There we go. I like that better. And I may add like some separation between her head and her hands, and then her arm. Um, Let me make her tongue a little more pink. And I'm just gonna adjust the colors here. Oops. For the value. Add some more saturation to the color. Oops, on the wrong layer. Always double check the layer you're on. Oh, wrong layer again. That's why you should label stuff, but we already talked about that. So this color for our eyebrows. Figure out where they are. Right here. And usually I just there's a slight difference. You may not even be able to see it. It's just a slight difference for our eyebrows. I may add a little more detail to her hair. Not sure. I'm gonna add a detail layer. Let me just. Oops. Take that all the way down. I'm gonna give her some smile. Nah, I'm gonna add. I'm gonna take that detail away. I think her tooth is too big. Some just slightly off, and I just want to make sure it's right. Her tooth is too big. Yeah, I think that's better. And I may make her mouth a little less exaggerated on this side. Okay, so I'm gonna adjust this pink, get this pink the right color. I do it this way. Literally drawing a blank. Color balance. I know what it is. So, apparently there was another color. I have another layer where there's a pink blotch above. Just let me figure out what this adjustment is going to be. Mm, that not coming here. So now I got to figure out what his blotch is. Here it is. I'm saying some small details. And these details would really depend on like what the final decision is on the design of the character. Because you want to go back through and just make sure that all the details of that particular character are in there the way they need to be. Cool, cool. So now I'll go in and add the details for Charles. And again, keep the details light and we'll be done. I'll add the marker to it, the logo, and we'll be good to go. So let me find an outline layer for Charles. Actually, I'll just make this my outline. Details. Oh, so something wrong with the hair. Let me come here. You always got to pay attention to the little things. Always go back over your work. Just double check, make sure everything's lining up. Hmm. Still looking at his body here. And go back to the outlines. And when you're doing the outlines, just make sure you remember what overlaps what. Chucks. Some gum bottoms or give them a shadow beneath. Smaller. Sorry I got quiet on you, but yeah, that's pretty much it. Let me, oops, zoom out, turn all this stuff off so you can see it for what it is. Turn the reference off. And there it is. Hey, Kid Charles and his sister KJ, Kimberly Jenae. Um, Next time, maybe I'll start from the sketch phase up, just so you can see how I ideate. But that's pretty much it in a nutshell. Just my cleanup process. These are pretty flat. The goal is to keep this cartoonish. If I make it into a book, then I may add more shading, that kind of thing. But that's it for now, folks. Appreciate you tuning in. Next time, leave some comments. Let me know what you think, what you'd like to see, and I'll try to make it happen for you. So, with that said, have a good night. Peace.